The young lady furiously curses her husband. The man in question is the crown prince of the kingdom, the master of the light dragon, and the protector of the empire, Caesar. So many titles. Wow. He has just returned from a long war, and the only thing he is eager to do is to see his wife. He even ignores the people gossiping around him as they recall the past when he was cursed. The first thing he does is ask his subordinate Len where his wife is. He is told she would soon be arriving, and he is anxious to see her. During those 2 years of harsh war, she was the only thing that kept him going. She was his purpose. They announce the arrival of the consort, and Caesar happily turns to welcome her. He is ready to see his beloved once again. However, what he sees instead makes him frown hard. There is a strange woman in front of him. Well, not really strange. She is Giovanetta, his wife's half-sister. She smiles and happily welcomes him, but Caesar is not in the mood. He demands to see his wife, and the lady insists she is the one. Everyone might have forgotten that the crown prince was a beast, but he is about to remind them. He draws out his sword with an angry look on his face and demands to know where his consort has been taken. Back to the first scene, the real princess consort is riding a shabby carriage. She is being sent far away. Irenaa is remembering her past. Before her husband became the handsome man he is now, both of them were once considered a match. She was the illegitimate daughter of the Flores house, and to make it worse, she was a lame woman who limped. All she knew how to do were some menial house chores. Back then, Caesar wasn't any better than her. He was just a cursed and beastly first prince. He was supposed to be noble, but was actually the lowliest person in the palace. Because of his royal blood, he inherited the curse of the light dragon. Therefore, the man who was supposed to be the most radiant prince turned into a monster because of this curse. Now, this pair were joined together in marriage. And while everyone might have looked down on these two outcasts, they were really happy. Especially Irenaa. She could never have wanted anything more. But it seems wishing for happiness to last forever was being too greedy, and she was punished for it. Her husband decided to go into war, and no matter how she begged him, he never looked back once. This was the same man who treated her like his world. To her, it felt like he abandoned her the minute he got free of his curse. But she didn't give up. She wrote him letters every day for those 2 years, but never once did she receive a reply. Instead, what she got were rumors of an affair between her husband and her half-sister. The rumored mistress herself even came to meet Irenaa. She is the same woman who ran to welcome Caesar when he got back. She boldly declared that the prince loved her and warned Irenaa to give up. After all, the position of the princess consort was never something a lame woman like Irenaa deserved. Back to the present, Irenaa wonders if the prince finally got ashamed. Maybe being married to such a shabby woman like her became too big of an embarrassment to him. If she had known this is how it would end, she would never have been happy and would just stay broken. Well, something else is about to break you, dear. The lone carriage the princess consort is in suddenly shakes badly. They are under attack. Irenaa is frightened as she wonders if this is a random attack or someone is trying to kill her. It seems she has a suspect in mind. She doesn't have time to think further, though. With just one slash, the coachman is killed. Then it is her turn. But Irenaa isn't ready to die like this. Only the one who survives is the strong one, she tells herself. She jumps down from the carriage and starts to run. But the truth is, how can a lame woman outrun a group of killers? It is a hopeless situation, and the killers have caught up with her. They reach out to grab her, and then a head is sent flying. Of course it's not our female lead's head. The killers are being attacked. Irenaa has no idea if the person is a friend or foe. She can't see the person, and then it starts to rain, making everything worse. She brings out a knife to defend herself and warns the man not to come closer. He doesn't listen and approaches her instead. Irenaa finally sees the man's face, and she is shocked. It is her husband, Caesar, but she isn't happy to see him. She believes he is here to witness her end. After all, she is the only stain he has on his now clean life. But wait a moment. It seems we have gone too far. How can we understand the depth of her betrayal if we have no idea of their love story? To do that, we have to go back to 3 years ago, back to the rainy day when Irenaa decided to get married to the monster prince. Irenaa is unhappy. Who would be when you just heard people wondering how long it will take before something bad happens to you on your wedding day? They even doubt if she would survive the night. She has always had a hard life. Just because she was an illegitimate daughter, she was forced to live life like a slave by the Flores family. At some point, she began to wonder why they brought her back if they were just going to treat her like this. She would rather have been with her mother and continued roaming the streets. But that was an impossible dream. When she was 7, the Flores family servants appeared and took her away from her mom. They told her mother, Annalisa, died on the streets due to a plague. While this might have looked like a Cinderella story, it wasn't one for our female lead because her life became worse. Her position in the Flores estate was at the bottom. She was treated worse than the servants. Even the horses and dogs in the estate had a better life than she did. She was used to being at the bottom, but that was until one day, the day she was summoned by the mistress of the house and was told she had been selected to be the first prince's wife. The Flores family has always produced the nation's empresses, and it is finally Irenea's turn. It was then that Irenaa finally understood why they brought her, an eyesore, back to the mansion. It was all for this marriage arrangement. This would have been a thing of joy, but let's consider the fact that they skipped the yet unengaged first daughter, Giovanetta, and ordered the second and illegitimate daughter to get married. It was all because the marriage partner is Prince Caesar, the cursed prince of the empire. The first prince was said to have been a child sickly from birth. Because of that, he was never seen at any social or official events. Just like Irenaa, he is an outcast, a child whose mother ran mad after giving birth to him. Eventually, the woman even killed herself. But the rumors are different. The first prince has always been called the Monster Prince. The name followed him everywhere he went. Because of this, it was hard to find a wife for the prince. Every noble family who heard the rumors would try to avoid the marriage by quickly setting an engagement for their daughters, or adopting girls to take the role of their daughter. And it wasn't for no reason. The 4 engagements that the imperial family managed to fix for the first prince were all cancelled. Why? Well, because all the brides died. And yet, that is the man Irenea's family wants her to marry. Her stepmother says it is a big honor and opportunity for a street urchin like her to become the princess consort. Irenaa knows this is not for her good. Nothing was ever said about how those 4 young women died, but everyone knew it must be connected to the crown prince, the man her family wants her to marry. They are really just telling her to go and die. The stepmother continues praising Irenaa as the future empress, the mother of the nation. But if it was such a good thing, it would never have been Irenea's. But even though she knows they are handing her a poisonous deal, she cannot refuse. If this is her fate, then she will accept it. After all, even if it is briefly, she will be able to change her status and become noble. And so our female lead goes ahead to sign the edict. She is determined to go through with this marriage, even if it leads to her death. The day of the wedding finally approaches. Irenaa knew the crown prince was hardly seen, but she didn't expect him to not even appear for their wedding. Someone else had to stand in for him. She is nervous, but when she feels something on her legs, she calls down a little. It is a pity they don't do security checks at the prince's mansion. Our female lead brought in a dagger, but who can a fragile girl like her stab anyway? There is a sound at the door, and it seems the crown prince is here. Irenaa rushes to get ready, but is shocked when the doors open. And so are we too. The reason? 2 soldiers are dragging a large cage into the room. It is even wrapped in chains. When the cage is opened, it is not a lion trapped inside, but the first prince of the kingdom. Irenaa cannot believe what she is seeing. She is even more shocked when they say they gave him a sedative, so he is unconscious. They are basically treating him like an animal. They drop him on the bed, and after announcing to her that the sedatives are wearing off, they rush out. It seems they don't want to be here when the prince wakes up. Irenaa is a bit confused and terrified. She is thinking about the sensual education she was given and how it is not enough. Girl, that is not what you would be worried about. She feels pity for the poor man. It doesn't matter if he is cursed, it is wrong for them to treat a prince like that. And Caesar is not just a prince, he is the first prince of the empire, the next in line for the throne. She takes a step closer to him and is shocked by his appearance. He really doesn't look different from an ordinary human on the outside. She has not even finished that thought when her opinion changes really fast. What she sees next proves her wrong, and Irenaa stares in horror at the scene before her. Crown Prince Caesar is awake, and we can finally see what terrified Irenaa so much. He has red, almost beast-like eyes. And as if it isn't enough, his entire left arm is long and black with claws. The rumors were right. He has a beast. When he opens his eyes, he is all alone. Something seems to upset him, and he goes on a rampage, destroying everything he can see. But he isn't really alone. Hidden in a corner where he can't see is a terrified Irenaa. She is scared as she wonders what sort of terrifying power Caesar has. The scary sounds she was hearing suddenly stop, and she is joyful, thinking the drug is still working. He must have fallen asleep again. However, when she looks out, she sees him standing right outside and staring at her. At that moment, Irenaa remembers the words of the people who predicted her death. They ridiculed her wedding, and were sure she was going to be the 5th dead bride of the prince. Even her own half-sister gave her a dagger as a wedding gift, but it wasn't to protect herself. Giovinetta gave her the dagger so she could kill herself before Caesar could do it for her. Irenaa already knew she was gone. There are only 2 choices before her, to kill herself or die at the hands of the monster before her. However, Irenaa is a fighter. Even when she was being treated like a slave by the Flores family, she never gave up and always struggled to live. In the end, she believes the one who survives is the strong one, and so she turns the dagger towards Caesar. She will fight for her life. She tells him not to come closer and to stay away. To her surprise, he seems confused and repeats the words she says, asking if he should leave. She insists he should, but he doesn't listen and moves closer to her. Frightened, she raises her dagger to his face. She is prepared to stab him when he suddenly starts screaming and shouting. She is surprised because the monster prince actually looks terrified. She wonders what could scare such a beast-like man, and finally comes to a surprising cause. The thunder. She can't understand how thunder could scare a beast. But looking at his pitiful face, he doesn't seem to be a beast to her. She takes a huge risk and goes forward to touch his face. She tries to reassure him that everything is fine. He is listening to her and everything seems to be going well until the thunder strikes again. In his moment of panic, Caesar transforms into a beast again. Terrified that something might happen to her, Irenaa grabs the knife to protect herself. But before she can do anything, the monster prince suddenly jumps on her. Irenaa has just managed to grab the knife, but before she can do anything, Caesar jumps on her forcefully. Because of that, she mistakenly injures herself. And what makes it worse is that Caesar's form has changed. Looking into his red eyes and sharp teeth, Irenaa is sure she is doomed. She is going to die. She notices him leaning closer to her wound. To her shock, he goes ahead to lick the blood. He is licking it like it is some delicious milk. She tells him to stop, and when she looks at him again, he doesn't look like a monster anymore. He has returned back to normal. He now looks like a docile, large beast. The surprises aren't over for Irenaa. Tell her why Caesar is now sleeping on her legs like he wasn't going on a rampage a few minutes ago. She knows he acted strangely, but is sure he never intended to hurt her. It has got her wondering if he is also in the same situation as her. Anyway, she is thankful that she at least managed to survive the first night. Fast forward to morning, and the knights are here to move what they assume is a new corpse. They talk about how tired they are of doing this. They are afraid that Caesar might decide to go on another rampage. So when they open the door and see the still alive Irenaa, they are very shocked. Not only is she still alive, she has Caesar sleeping on her legs. Caesar, hearing all the noise, wakes up. Seeing the knights, he gets angry, and he tries to attack them. Thankfully, Irenaa stops him. She scolds him like a baby and tells him not to do that. He immediately understands and sits down like a good boy. The soldiers really can't believe their eyes. To them, it is big news, and they rush to inform the emperor immediately. In a gorgeous palace, a woman can't believe what she is hearing. Her servants just informed her that the first prince successfully spent his first night with his bride, and the girl didn't end up dead. The woman is unhappy and finds it interesting that that thing, as she calls Irenaa, is still alive. She is Empress Cornelia. She is Emperor Guido's lover turned empress. She was with him when he was a crown prince. However, she only became the empress when Caesar's mother died. She has her own son, born during the days when she was a mistress. Her child was therefore an illegitimate one, and it took 20 years before he was finally recognized as the second prince of the empire, Prince Matthias. Back to the scene. While others might be happy Irenaa is still alive, the empress isn't. Her servant wants to know what they should do about Irenaa. Empress Cornelia wants them to use the Beryl Palace as their home now. From the smirk on her face, though, you can tell this Beryl Palace is not a good place. The servant understands what her mistress is trying to do and goes ahead to carry it out. Before she leaves, Empress Cornelia, who doesn't even know the new bride's name, asks for it. She jokingly says Irenaa might really take her place this time. Before that, she wants to see the thing that could change the Beast Prince. It seems like Irenaa has just completed an impossible feat. Everyone who comes by is in shock that she is still alive. The priest even says the people from the Flores family must indeed be different. Irenaa isn't too bothered by their reaction, though, as she also thought she would die. She sees the maid walking by with a cloth stained with blood. It seems like the white cloth used to treat her injury is being used as proof of marriage. But that is a good thing for her, as no one can doubt their marriage now. She can feel at ease. Just like we suspected, the empress has commanded her servants to prepare a very unpleasant place for Irenaa and the prince. Looking at the place, Irenaa can see how rundown it is. There are even a few cobwebs hanging around. Of course, the queen's main servant, Countess Elvira, has prepared an excuse and says it is because it was too sudden. She even has the balls to ask Irenaa if she dislikes this place. It seems she expected Irenaa to start a quarrel with her about how dirty the place is, but our girl doesn't. She even performs a curtsy and says she is grateful to the empress. Irenaa is all alone in her new room. She remembers the servant asking her if she didn't like this place. To them, this might be a big form of bullying, but they have no idea she has seen worse back at the Flores mansion. Another maid knocks and wants to help Irenaa bathe, but she quickly refuses. She is not comfortable with anyone seeing her injury, which made her lame. Irenaa might be thinking she has seen it all in the palace, but she is in for a rude awakening. It is dinner time, and while the dishes they prepared are so delicious and pretty, Irenaa is waiting for her husband to join her. She has already been told she will be living with the prince at this mansion and is eager to see him. After all, even though he is cursed, he is still a prince. In this palace, he is her only backing. It is announced that the prince is entering, and Irenaa is happy to see him. She is about to greet him when the words die in her throat and she can't speak again. All she can do is watch, horrified. The knights have Caesar back in chains. They even put a muzzle over his mouth like he is some kind of dog. And that isn't even the worst part. They are all holding sharp weapons with iron thorns. When he tries to resist, they attack him violently like an animal. Irenaa is heartbroken watching this and tries to help him, but they hold her back. She begs them to stop, but they never listen to her. After beating him to their satisfaction, they dump him on a chair. Irenaa is disgusted just watching this, and so am I. How can they treat a human being like that? One of them comes over and pretends like he knows something, warning Irenaa not to go near the prince. He hands her something we can't see and then leaves. Of course will our dear girl listen to them? Of course not. Immediately they leave. She rushes over to Caesar and begins to take off his muzzle. Irenaa is disgusted at the sight of the muzzle on Caesar. What breaks her heart further are the fresh wounds on his body. They weren't there in the morning, so it must have been inflicted when he was gone. And this muzzle, how is he going to eat with that on? When she sees what they prepared for her, she finally understands. There are some raw meat and a tong lying to the side. It seems they usually feed him through the muzzle. Irenaa can't believe it. It seems these people really think Caesar is some sort of wild animal. This inhumane treatment just reminds her of her time in the Flores house. It seems she and her new husband are more alike than she thought. When he begins struggling again, she rushes to release him. The words of the knights makes her doubt for a moment, but she knows in her heart this is not how you treat a person. After taking off his muzzle, she tries to assure him everything is fine, but he goes on a rampage. He breaks free of his chains and starts shouting. The poor poor boy looks tormented. Seeing that he has begun to change form, Irenaa is getting frightened. She remembers what the knights gave her, a small vial. All she has to do is throw it in Caesar's face. She brings it out, and when Caesar sees it, he goes mad. It reminds him of his tongs. He attacks her and throws the vial away, causing Irenaa to fall. She doubts her actions earlier. Doing that will really make her no different from the knights. Because of the force he used to snatch the bottle, the wound on Irenea's hands is torn open again. At the sight of her blood, she remembers what happened last night. Caesar seemed to have regained his senses after drinking her blood. She isn't sure, but she is willing to take this risk. She pushes her hand in front of him and offers the blood to him. As expected, he quickly gets down and starts licking the blood. Irenaa is happy to have found a solution, but is also scared. Thankfully, there are no people here. What would they think if a cursed prince now craves blood too? If people find out about this, they would surely talk nonsense. She looks at the man who has calmed down and tells him to stop. He doesn't listen to her though, and instead pushes her back to the floor and climbs on top of her. Irenaa is scared. Caesar has her on her back and has started licking her. She assumes he must still be thirsty for blood, but it gives her a bad feeling. It almost feels like he is about to devour her. She begs him to stop for a long time. He finally stops when he sees her crying. He doesn't understand why she is scared. She tells him she is already he might eat her up and then she would die. Caesar immediately sits properly like a little kid in front of his teacher. He tells her he doesn't want that. She says she doesn't want to die either. He reaches out and helps clean her tears as he keeps repeating, he doesn't want that. Looking at his sad, sincere face, she is sure he doesn't want her to die. He might not really know what death is, but at least he doesn't want her dead. Well, since she knows her husband is not about to kill her, Irene now feels safe enough. She pats his head and then introduces herself to him. She tries to get him to say her name, and after a few tries, he can now call her Ren perfectly, just like her mother used to. He is very innocent, like a child, and seeing him smile so happily makes Irenaa happy too. She tells him they are married, although nobody thought she would survive the marriage. The maids who cursed her thinking she would die, the rundown palace she and Caesar were given, and even the empress who seems to disapprove of both Caesar and her. Everyone thought she would surely die, but she is done letting people's opinions affect her. The only thing she would be concerned about is her husband's condition. He is the only one she can count on, and it is the same for him. He can only count on her. She tells him both of them are on the same side. Therefore, if anybody bullies him again just like before, he has to tell her immediately. He doesn't understand, and so she reminds him of those bad people who beat him up earlier. Just remembering this makes him angry, and he tells he doesn't want that. Seeing how he is reacting just shows he must have been in many negative situations. She doesn't want him to go through that again. She teaches him to make a pinky promise and orders him to tell her when next he gets bullied. He agrees, but she has no idea if he really understands what she meant. The two are having breakfast, but Irenaa is about to get frustrated. Why is this man using his hands to eat? She tells him he needs to use a fork and shows him how. Instead of him to copy her actions, he sits there and opens his mouth waiting for her to feed him. All Irenaa can think of is how much of a baby bird he looks like. Although she tells him to do it himself, she finally gives in and begins feeding him. She feels like she is raising a 5-year-old child and not a husband. The two are enjoying their time together when the door is suddenly opened. A strange woman enters and starts calling the prince. It seems Caesar knows her as he calls her name. Irenaa is surprised Caesar knows someone and asks the woman who she is. She apologizes and introduces herself as Mercedes. She has been assigned to take care of Caesar. The woman who just appeared introduces herself as Mercedes Aranco. She was Caesar's nurse and has served by his side for many years. Immediately, she heard they moved to a new palace. She came running as quickly as she could. Irenaa is aware the only one who could be Caesar's nurse must be the woman who served as the lady-in-waiting for the late Empress Adelaide, Caesar's mother. But Irenaa isn't entirely pleased with her. When the woman starts talking about how sensitive Caesar has become, resulting in the soldiers using more violence against him, Irenaa becomes more upset. She tries to question Mercedes on why she didn't stop them, but the woman starts crying. She says she couldn't go against Empress Cornelia. Looking at the pitiful woman in front of her, especially at her rough hands, Irenaa can't remain angry anymore. Normally, a lady-in-waiting should be someone who comes from a noble home. They should have fair hands. However, Mercedes' hands are rough. The only way she could have gotten this was through protecting Caesar. Irenaa is not the only one asking questions. Mercedes is also curious to know how Irenaa managed to make Caesar listen to her. He hasn't even been listening to her recently. Of course, our girl can't say she calmed him down by giving him her blood. Nobody would believe her even if she said it. They might even accuse her of witchcraft. She recalls an incident that happened when she was still younger and was roaming the streets with her mother. A woman who was accused of being a witch was killed through a witch trial. No matter how noble you are, you will be reduced to a beggar once you are accused of witchcraft. Before the woman died, she was forced to carry a huge wooden cross on her back. Then she was taken all around the empire and stoned. She was killed by fire. Her body was set ablaze and she burned slowly. For a witch, there is no mercy, not even in death. Just imagining all this happening to her and Irenaa is already sweating. Even Mercedes can notice something is wrong. She rushes to assure the maid she is fine. To her surprise, a certain beast-like man suddenly grabs her hand. He is looking at her worriedly. Irenaa is touched because this is Caesar's way of trying to comfort her emotions. While the two stare at each other lovingly, Mercedes is feeling some kind of way. She pretends to laugh and says Caesar must really like Irenaa, calling it a relief. It is nighttime, and Irenaa is lying in bed after a stressful day. Before Mercedes leaves, she reminds Irenaa of the tea party she is to have with the Empress the next day. Irenaa isn't happy about it. She just had a tea party with the Empress recently, and yet they are having another one again. They certainly are meeting a lot. While she is busy complaining, a little rat is having fun grabbing her legs. She is in shock and sits up only to see the rat Caesar happily holding and playing with her leg. He even smiles happily when she catches him. Irenaa is blinded by how cute he is. She scolds him for not going to his room and wonders how he even got into hers. Looking at the innocent man playing with her foot, it doesn't feel right to kick him out either. Left with no choice, she makes a space for him on the bed and asks him to join her. He doesn't waste time and jumps right into bed with her. Irenaa tries to convince herself it isn't a big deal since they are married. Feeling his warmth near her, she begins to laugh. It has been a while since she slept next to someone. She fools our innocent male lead into hugging her, saying it will make their sleep better. Soon the couple go to sleep. On another side of the palace, a red-haired male is asking about Caesar. He wants to know if his new bride survived, and his assistant says she did. He smirks and says those conservative old men are going to be so happy. The red-haired man asking if Caesar's bride survived is none other than the second prince of the empire, Matthias de la Rosa. He is Empress Cordelia's son. Hearing that no death happened in Caesar's palace, he is sure the conservative old men will be pleased. These are the men who want Caesar to be the next successor of the throne, even though he has severe mental issues. After all, he is legitimate. Matthias doesn't believe they truly like Caesar. They just want a puppet emperor. Their empire, Asteria, is not an independent one. During the war between the demons, 3 different races allied together. The human race, Asteria, the elves, Hebrilium Forest, and the dwarves, Stoican Iron Union. Those 3 rule the continent. However, to become an emperor in Asteria, you will need the complete support of the rulers of the other 2 kingdoms. And the other 2 rulers prefer a man they can control. Matthias is not bothered by this. When he is told that Irenaa is from the house of Flores, he starts wondering if the legends are true. Irenea's ancestor once hunted a light dragon. Their blood is said to be able to suppress the blood of the light dragon. No matter if she is illegitimate, Matthias is starting to wonder if the descendants of Cosimo are really different. With this new information, he is interested in Irenaa now. He is sure his mother must be furious. He regrets not coming to her wedding ceremony. He thought she would die and he is not interested in watching dying people. But now that he knows she is different, he is interested in her. He isn't too concerned as he is sure they will meet again soon. Irenaa is having a bad dream. There seem to be a group of people accusing a girl of stealing her jewelry. Just as it is about to be revealed who did it, Irenaa wakes up. She is startled by the dream she just had, but those feelings go away when she looks at the man sleeping next to her. When he is not awake, he looks like a noble. She hears a loud commotion outside and goes out to see what is happening. There are a group of maids gathered outside her room and making a lot of noise. Irenaa is upset and demands to know what is happening. There is a girl kneeling in the middle and they all accuse her of theft. One of the girls even says she saw her take it. They all insist she should be sent away. Irenaa is not amused by their behavior as they are being rude. She points at one of the maids and asks her to explain what is going on. The maid isn't pleased by Irenaa's attitude. After all, she is just a low-born illegitimate child picked from the streets. She still pretends and introduces herself as Elda, the head maid. She says a theft happened this morning and Delphina is the culprit. Another maid, Sarah, witnessed her stealing some jewelry, so they all came here to report it. Irenaa is not fooled by their behavior. She can tell just by looking into their eyes what they really think of her. This was the same look she got when she first arrived at the Flores mansion. They all gossiped about her. The illegitimate child born from the affair between the master of the house and a kitchen maid. She had no backing and even the mistress of the house hated her. Therefore, she was treated even worse than the maids. Irenaa always wondered if it wouldn't have been better if she was just a maid. At least then, after years of hard work, she would be able to rise in the ranks and gain influence. She could earn wages, save up, and then retire or find a better job. Unfortunately for her, those were just dreams. The Floor's name will always be a chain around her. She was treated even worse than a slave for over 10 years. And that is why she can see through all the maids. They are all just playing a game. This way, she can never tell if the jewelry is really gone or not. However, our female lead is not weak. She scolds Elda and tells her she has failed at her job and has been very rude. As the head maid, she didn't manage to look after the master's jewelry properly, didn't train her underlings well, and still came to cause a commotion right outside the master's door before they woke up. This shows a complete lack of manners. The maid is startled and tries to pin the blame on someone else, but Irenaa stops her. She is speaking to Elda right now and not anyone else. Irenaa knows she doesn't have a backing, but she has nothing to be afraid of. After all, she is married off to a monster prince. She wants to know who assigned Elda here, and the girl says it was the Countess Elvira. Irenaa announces her behavior is causing shame to the Countess. Irenaa knows she doesn't have any backing as a poor princess who married a monster prince. But that is not going to stop her from disciplining these maids. After telling the maid her behavior is a disgrace to the Countess Elvira who sent her here, she announces she is going to report their rudeness to the Countess personally. Once the girls hear this, they immediately go on their knees and start begging Irenaa to forgive them. Irenaa does not want to, though. They might not fear her, but she will use someone they fear to subdue subdue them. The maids beg and ask Irenaa to forgive them. They say it was just a small mistake and apologize. Irenaa doesn't listen to them at all. These were the same girls who mocked her when she just entered the palace as a bride. Even if it is just a form of petty revenge, she must use this chance to establish order, especially if she wants to survive in the palace. She tells them to stop making a scene with their begging and to stop their disgraceful behavior. She asks them to leave. Just as she is about to return to her room, she spots the girl kneeling on the floor. That is the Delphina they accused of stealing. Suddenly, Irenaa remembers where she had seen this scene before. She had a dream about this situation just last night. Now she is wondering if she is imagining things or going insane. To test that theory, she asks for a guard to be brought here and orders all the maids to remain in their position. When the guard arrives, she asks the supposed witness, Sarah, to empty her pockets. The maid refuses and the guard is forced to help her. To our surprise, the missing jewelry is found in her pocket. Irenaa is angry and asks the head maid why she insisted that it was Delphina that stole the jewelry. Since the maid can't answer, our girl orders the guards to take them all away. The only one left is the innocent Delphina, who is almost framed. She is grateful to Irenaa. Now that the show is over, Irenaa returns to her room. She has realized her biggest problem now, her lack of people. She has nobody she can trust in this palace. Just then, her little husband wakes up. Staring at his innocent face, she can't resist rubbing it, which he enjoys. Seeing him so cute and gentle makes her wonder just how many unfair situations Caesar has faced till now. And the only way he could respond to such hard situations was with violence. Now that she is here, however, she is ready to change it for him. They are already bound by fate, and so to protect herself and her husband, she has to surround herself with trustworthy people. And to do that, she has no choice but to speak with the Empress. Someone interrupts her thinking. It is Lady Mercedes. She has been looking everywhere for Caesar. She is surprised to see him with Irenaa, and notices how close the two seem to be. Caesar even has his head on Irenea's shoulder. She is feeling uncomfortable and tries to get him off, but he refuses. Seeing how clingy he is, Mercedes doesn't want to bother them any further, and tells Irenaa she only came to deliver a message to her. The Empress has invited her to a tea party. Irenaa isn't too surprised to hear that she has a tea party planned for her and the Empress. It actually seems to come at the right time since she already planned to speak to the Empress about some issues. She wants to know if she has enough authority to actually hire new servants for her palace. Mercedes says she heard about the commotion that happened in the morning. She is proud of Irenaa and praises her for the way she handled this situation. Irenaa is not pleased as she finds the servants' behavior very rude. Not only do they treat her that way, they also treat Caesar badly. Mercedes explains that the palace is run by the Empress. All her servants are working under Countess Elvira. As such, they behave as though they have the Queen's backing. Irenaa doesn't accept that as an excuse for their behavior. Now she is faced with another challenge. She brought no maids or ladies-in-waiting with her when she married. As such, she has no one to rely on. She asks Mercedes for a favor, that the woman helps her until she at least gets a lady-in-waiting. Mercedes is touched and pleased with this request. She vows to help Irenaa to the best of her abilities. It is time for Irenaa to prepare for the tea party with the Empress. The maids want to take her away to dress her. Irenaa is surprised as she thought the prince would be coming along. Mercedes lets her know the Empress does not like seeing Caesar. However, they are now faced with another problem, a clingy crown prince who doesn't want to let his wife go. He protests loudly and refuses to leave her. Even his form starts to change. Irenaa is worried the blood she gave him last night is starting to wear off. She quickly chases everyone out of the room so she can attend to him. Alone, it is time for her to feed her baby husband again. And it is certainly not food. He goes to bite her neck, but she quickly stops him. They can't leave any visible marks on her, especially since she will be meeting the Empress. Therefore, she cuts open the wound on her hand and lets him drink her blood. In her mind, she hopes she isn't doing something wrong to Caesar in the process. Irenaa is done with the feeding and is dressing up. She keeps her clothes simple. She can't stand out now that she knows the Empress doesn't like her. She has also prepared some gloves to hide the injury on her hands. She can't let them use the injury to cause issues for her. She is ready to leave and says goodbye to a certain someone. He isn't accepting her goodbye, however. They try to persuade him and Mercedes even promises to stay with him, but still he refuses. Irenaa can't stay with him anymore and leaves, while he looks on like an abandoned puppy. It looks like Empress Cordelia really doesn't like Irenaa. Knowing that she has a walking problem, she purposely sets their meeting at the greenhouse farthest from her palace. She also did not tell her the location, making Irenaa think they are meeting somewhere nearby. That is why she decided to walk. As a result, by the time they arrive at the tea party, Irenaa is sweating and struggling to stand upright. The maids and servants laugh at her when they see her struggling to walk. But her struggles aren't over as the Empress demands that Irenaa get on her knees. After hearing the Empress demands for her to kneel down and greet her, Irenaa and the woman are locked in a staring contest. But no matter how much she stares, she eventually has to obey the commands of the Empress. She gets on her knees. This makes her knee hurt badly, but Cordelia is enjoying seeing her in pain. She stays silent and makes Irenaa kneel there until her sweat is all over the ground. Only then does she accept our girl's greeting. Irenea's legs hurt so bad that she almost falls when she attempts to stand up. It is her new maid, Delphina, that quickly saves her from the embarrassment and holds on to her. The Empress seems disappointed she didn't get to see Irenaa make a fool of herself. Cordelia orders the rest of Irenea's company to leave. Now, Irenaa is left alone alone in the room surrounded by the Empress and her people. Cordelia is curious to know how Irenea's time in the palace has been, and if she has been comfortable. Whether or not the Empress really means the question, Irenaa is not about to let this opportunity slip by. She immediately starts complaining about the servants in the palace and the way they mistreat Caesar, especially the knights who hit him with weapons. She tells the queen that the prince's body is covered in wounds. They even put a muzzle on him. What she doesn't expect is the Empress's non-caring attitude to the whole issue. She even asks Irenaa what she wants her to do. She starts to educate Irenaa on why Caesar is treated that way, because he doesn't behave like a person. Only someone who behaves like a human is treated as one. She tells Irenaa what her definition of a person is. Someone who can walk on his two legs, use tools, and should be able to communicate with people. She uses her parrot as an example and says he is even more of a human than Caesar. The prince is more of an animal than the bird. And to control a wild animal, naturally you need a whip. These words upset Irenaa so much. She can't control her temper any longer and suddenly stands up. She slams the table and yells at the Empress, telling her Caesar is not a beast. In a fit of anger, Irenaa has stood up and challenged the Empress. The Empress is not the only one shocked by such behavior. Even Irenaa herself can't believe she just yelled at the queen. But that doesn't mean her yelling worked, because the queen just laughs it off. She even says Irenaa is performing a comedy show. After all, what Irenaa just said is the best joke she has heard in years. Irenaa is frustrated by the queen's behavior. She tells the queen that indeed Caesar is different from others. She cannot forget how he loses his reason and responds violently to human blood, how his hands transform into that of a reptile, and his eyes that resemble that of a beast. He really looks like a man that has been cursed. But still, with all that, she cannot forget the man she has been getting to know. The gentle smile and innocent eyes also belong to Caesar too. That is why she can boldly tell the queen that Caesar is also a human. The queen mocks Irenea's loyalty. She thinks she is just clinging to such a mentally disabled husband because she is a lowborn illegitimate daughter. Hearing those words break Irenea's heart. It is very clear that the queen does not view Caesar as a human being. And now it seems she thinks that way about Irenaa too. Our girl has no idea what to do. How can she change the mind of someone who doesn't even view her as a human being? A sudden plan comes to her head. The queen's requirement for someone to be considered a human being is if the person can walk on two legs, use a tool, and speak like humans. If Caesar manages to do all these, then he can be considered human, right? The queen is amused by Irenea's boldness. The girl really thinks she can tame that beast. She, however, agrees to acknowledge Irenea's bet. If she can really manage to tame and teach Caesar, not only will she start viewing him as a human, she will also pass on the Azure Flame's dream to Irenaa. I know that name sounds like the name of some immortal sword, but it really is not. Instead, it is a beautiful blue necklace, a symbol of authority passed down to all the women in the imperial family. Irenaa cannot imagine what that means, but the queen helps her explain. If she is seen publicly wearing that necklace, that would mean that she has the queen's full support. Not only would Caesar be acknowledged as a human, he would also become the strongest contender for the throne, and he would be fully backed by the imperial family. The queen believes this is enough recognition for Irenaa. She gives her a deadline until the summer banquet, which is just 3 months away. That would be the best place to prove the prince is now human. That means Irenaa has just 3 months to change the prince from a beast into a human. The queen tells Irenaa that she hates liars. If Irenaa is just tricking her with empty words, then she will have no choice but to punish her. Irenaa might have been acting all brave when she was in front of Empress Cordelia, but as soon as she leaves the woman's presence, she can't even stand upright. Her maid, Delphina, has to help hold her up. Suddenly, a voice is heard. The newcomer says he came to see the girl who tamed the beast prince, but she is not some warrior woman like he imagined. She is even more ordinary than he expected. He approaches her and calls her name. A sweating Irenaa looks up and is shocked when she sees the man. That face and red hair only belong to one person, Empress Cornelia. Except this person is male. The man asks her if she just came back from meeting his mother, and it is just as she guessed. It is the second prince of the empire, Matthias. She greets him, but is shocked when he acts all friendly and moves closer to her. He even calls her by name. Irenaa is disgusted by this behavior. He is really just like his mother. She pushes him away and lets him know he wasn't given permission to call her name. He mockingly asks if he should call her sister-in-law. Irenaa can't keep up with his annoying attitude and wants to leave. He doesn't let her go and drags her back rudely. He pulls her directly into his arms and presses her face into his chest. As if that isn't enough, he tells her he is curious to know if Caesar manages to satisfy her in bed. Irenaa has just heard her brother-in-law ask her if his half-brother is managing to satisfy her needs in bed. She is so shocked, she stammers and doesn't even know what to say. He pretends like he never said anything. He says she seems to be having trouble walking and asks the servants to bring a litter to carry her back to her palace. Back in her palace, our female lead is still in a rage. In all her life, she has never heard such disgusting words or received such humiliation. She can't help but keep cursing Prince Matthias. While she is having an angry angry fit, she hears someone call her by her nickname. She is sure it is Caesar, but when she looks around, there is no one in her bedroom. She is also sure she entered alone, so how come? However, she forgot to look somewhere, and that is under the bed. It turns out our cute boy has been hiding under there so he can scare his wife. Irenaa is amused by him. He is totally covered in dust. She tells him to move closer so she can clean him up, but she does the opposite of that. Instead, she starts squeezing his cheeks. Poor Caesar has no idea what is going on, and so is taken advantage of by Irenaa. She can't help laughing at how ridiculous he looks right now. She has never fit in this palace. Everywhere she goes, there are cold stares that follow her. Even the empress and second prince want to swallow her whole. But in such a cold and hopeless situation where it seems like she could get killed any minute, she found peace in her monster prince. Anytime she looks at him, she feels free. Done with terrorizing him, she wants to give him a bath. He is covered in dirt. Although he looks cute, and this is a good way for her to begin turning him into a proper person. She calls for Mercedes and informs her the prince needs a bath. She doesn't expect the reluctant reaction she gets from the maid, though. The woman doesn't look willing to bathe him. Irenaa notices this and asks if there is a problem, but the maid denies it. She leads Caesar away for his bath. Irenaa is not feeling relieved at all. Mercedes' reaction scared her a little. She can only hope that nothing serious will happen from a simple bath, but it seems she wished too quickly. Barely a few minutes later, and there are loud noises coming from outside. Irenaa is startled, but before she can get up and check, someone comes running into the room. It is Caesar, and he is totally naked. He has transformed into his beast form. He runs to where Irenaa is sitting on the bed and hugs her. Immediately, he returns back to his calm self. He calls her name like a baby who has been bullied. However, while his face looks innocent, his body is not. Look at those abs. Irenaa can't stop looking at them, and her face is really red. The moment is interrupted when Mercedes rushes in. She separates the two and tells Irenaa it would be impossible to bathe Caesar. Irenaa doesn't agree, as he hasn't washed properly. The maid tells her he always reacts violently when water is splashed on him. It isn't easy for them to bathe him either. Irenaa isn't ready to give up yet. If she can't get Caesar to do a simple thing like bathing, then she will never be able to change him. That is why she has decided to assist Caesar with his bath. The maid shuts down her idea very quickly and points out that she must never have assisted anyone with bathing. That is unfortunately true. Our female lead might have done other chores, but she has never bathed someone. She won't let that stop her, though. Supporting each other is the duty of a couple, and so she will give bathing her husband a try. Irenaa is not joking about helping her husband bathe. Look at her. Not only has she changed clothes, but she has also got her hair packed up. The two women head to the bathroom with Caesar to start his bath. Looking at the reluctant man in the bathtub, she ignores his pitiful face and rolls up her sleeves. She looks ready to beat him up if he even steps out of the bathtub. The male servant makes a move to pour the water first, but Caesar can't keep his calm any longer. He attacks the man. Blood starts dripping down the man's sleeves, and he immediately gets angry. He curses Caesar and is about to hit him. Irenaa is shocked by this behavior and screams at him to back away. The servant isn't even afraid and grumbles. Irenaa is more concerned about her husband than dealing with the arrogant servant. She can't believe that the servants would dare to attack Caesar, even in her presence. Mercedes uses this opportunity to speak her mind. She keeps insisting it is impossible to bath Caesar since he hates it so much. She wants to take him back to the playroom to play. Irenaa doesn't think Caesar acted that way because he hates bathing, though. She stops Mercedes from taking him away. She might not have expected his reaction, but that still isn't going to stop her. Caesar must finish his bath. The two women have different opinions. Mercedes believes the prince clearly doesn't want to bathe, while Irenaa insists that they do it. She calls Caesar over to her side. When Mercedes tries to protest, she informs the woman she made a bet with the empress. She has to turn Caesar into a normal human. The maid wants to protest, but Irenaa stops her and insists Caesar needs to do this. In a fit of anger, Mercedes decides to leave Irenaa alone to finish bathing the prince. The woman might have been rude, but Irenaa understands why she is behaving like that. Seeing the way the male servant treated Caesar before, it is enough to make Mercedes overprotective. After all, she did raise him for over 10 years. She hopes she didn't hurt the woman's feelings. Enough of that, as it is time for Irenaa to bathe her man. But before she can do that, she has to know why he hates it so much. When she asks him, he just strongly says he hates it. Irenaa is sure there must be a reason and wants to know what exactly he hates about it. She starts telling him good things about bathing, but he stubbornly refuses to listen and uses the towel to cover his ears. Irenaa is amused by how much he seems to hate bathing. She doesn't give up and tries to convince him by putting her hands into the water. She sees how he looks at the water and it seems he is interested. So what can be the reason then? It suddenly hits her. The only reason Caesar hates bathing this much must be because of the people who are doing it. When she asks him this, he looks at her pitifully. Now she understands why he refuses to bathe. The people who abused him must have been the ones who bathed him, and they must have treated him roughly. She wants to use this as an opportunity to teach him. She tells him if he doesn't want others to bathe him, then he has to learn how to do it by himself. She promises to show him and teach him, and he finally agrees. The two start their bathing lesson. Girl, he still has his robe on. Irenaa helps Caesar pour the water on his body, and though he still doesn't want to, he doesn't react as violently as before. Irenaa is relieved. She also noticed he didn't react to the servant's blood earlier. She thought he would go after just anybody's blood, but that doesn't seem to be the case. While Irenaa is helping Caesar bathe, she suddenly notices something surprising. She finally notices how hot and handsome her husband is, and she seems to have forgotten something important. To teach someone how to bathe, she will have to show her own skin. Irenaa is already blushing, and it just gets worse when Caesar attempts to remove his bathing robe. She hurries to keep it closed and scolds him for opening it. Of course, the innocent boy can only listen to her and keeps his body covered. He even does it seriously. But while that is one problem solved, there is still the biggest problem waiting. She still has to teach him how to bathe, and to do that, she needs to make an example. Just like when she was teaching him how to eat, he refused to take a bite until she had done so too. Irenaa knows what to do, and she has to do it. Left with no other choice, she convinces herself it is only for educational purposes. And then she begins to take off her clothes. The drama is just beginning. Want part 2? Comment below. Until next time, ciao!